Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka a Day. Today's shloka number 40 of chapter 1. Adharmat bhibhavat Krishna
Adharma-bhi-bhava Krishna
pradushyanti kulastriyaha
pradushyanti kulastriyaha
strishu dushtasu varshneya
trishu dusthasu varshneya
jayate varna sankaraha.
jayate varna sankaraha.
Word for word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Adharma,
Adharma,
irreligion,
irreligion,
abhibhavat,
abhibhavat,
having become predominant.
having become predominant.
Krishna,
Krishna,
O Krishna,
O Krishna,
pradushyanti,
pradushyanti,
become polluted.
become polluted.
Kulastriyaha,
Kulastriyaha,
family ladies.
family ladies.
Strishu,
Trishu,
by the womanhood.
by the womanhood.
Dushtasu,
Dhushtasu,
being so polluted.
being so polluted.
Varshneya,
Varshneya,
O descendant of Vrishni.
O descendant of Vishnu.
Jayate,
Jayate,
comes into being.
comes into being.
Varna sankaraha,
Varna sankaraha,
unwanted progeny.
unwanted progeny.
Translation: when irreligion is prominent in the family,
When irreligion is prominent in the family,
O Krishna,
O Krishna,
the women of the family become polluted.
the women of the family become polluted.
And from the degradation of womanhood,
And from the degradation of womanhood,
O descendant of Vrishni,
O descendant of Vishnu,
comes unwanted progeny.
comes unwanted progeny.
Okay. Prabhupada writes in the purport here, good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. So a good birth in a good family is very conducive to maintaining overall peace, prosperity, and more importantly, to make spiritual progress. The Varnashrama religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. So Prabhupada is saying for a woman, her chastity is the most important character or virtue. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Chanakya Pandita, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them. And thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varnashrama system. On the failure of such Varnashrama dharma, naturally the women become free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged in at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. So certainly for a woman reading this purport, this is some tough commentary by Prabhupada, but we'll understand the perspective. The elder members of the family bear age-old traditions, customs, ideals, and noble values of a community, which they pass on to their next generation. These traditions help nurture moral values in families and build religious propriety in a society. If the elders die early, their valuable knowledge goes with them, and in the absence of proper guidance, the next generation sways away from the virtuous path. Therefore, Arjun was of the opinion that the elders of a family should be spared. So this is actually a continuation of the previous shloka where Arjuna was asking Krishna, do you think it's really worth it for us to kill all the elderly people? Because if the elderly people are not there, who will be left to guide the next generation? Who will be there to teach them what is virtuous conduct and what is not? And Arjuna is simply extending his argument further. So we'll just read His Grace Chaitanya Sharan Prabhu's commentary. In this verse, Arjuna continues to explain his reasons for not wanting to fight in the war. Focusing particularly on its consequences, he begins by saying, Adharmat bhivavad Krishna. If adharma becomes prominent in society, pradushyanti kulastriyaha. The women of the family become polluted. Strishu dushta suvashneya. From the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, jayate varna sankaraha. Comes unwanted progeny. Adharma can manifest in various forms, but one prominent way it has historically occurred in society is through the abuse of women. Men in power, unless regulated by dharma, both internally and externally, are likely to act on their lustful impulses and violate the dignity of women. Internal regulation refers to the development of a strong sense of conscience through the study of scriptures and a clear understanding of right and wrong. This internalization fosters a strong conscience which helps individuals restrain their lower impulses. At a more evolved stage, this discipline allows them to find satisfaction in fulfilling higher purposes in life, ultimately leading to the supreme goal, connecting with the divine and relishing profound happiness in that connection. Until this divine connection is achieved, however, there remains the risk of being ensnared and dragged down by one's baser inclinations. So everything begins with external regulations, right? You have your do's and the don'ts. But gradually, the regulation actually becomes very subtle. It's about controlling your mind. It's about controlling your thoughts. It's about reining in your intelligence when it is going in a direction that it's not supposed to go. So actually, eventually, values are internal. But at least the external practice of certain aspects of decorum in society is where you begin. So this is not to suggest that women are to blame. This is to suggest that dharma has to be upheld, that the responsibility is also squarely on the shoulders of the men, especially the ruling class, or the men who are actually ruling over society. So the risk is always there. If you do not have dharmic people in positions of power, then dharma can be violated very easily. And that would automatically extend to the exploitation of women. There is a wonderful lecture in the early days where Prabhupada gives a class on one of the Bhagavad Gita shlokas, and he asks a very simple question. Somebody asked him, but why can't women have freedom? To which Prabhupada said, well, what's the point of you having freedom? You were free to mix with any man in the crowd. Then he gave you a baby and he freely left you. Was your freedom worth it? Prabhupada asks. Is that what you were fighting for all this time? Your freedom to indulge in sexual relationships without discrimination. You end up having a child, and because there is no marriage, the man leaves you very easily. Is that freedom? Prabhupada asks. Prabhupada actually uses a very strong word. He says, actually, you are embarrassed. You're so embarrassed that you're forced to take the help of the government to take care of your child because the father has abandoned the child and abandoned the woman. Is this what women's freedom is all about? Because what did you get in return? So this is exploitation of women. What Prabhupada was trying to tell his disciples, especially the women disciples, is that women should protect their chastity and not allow themselves to be exploited for their body. And therefore, Prabhupada always says, women and men should not mix together because a woman is like fire and a man is like butter. Fire will melt butter. A man may not be in that great of control of his baser instincts like a woman can be. This is not to say there are no exceptions. Of course, there are exceptions. But it's up to a woman to protect her own reputation. Because no matter what happens, invariably, the woman will get blamed. The man will walk away scot-free. That's just the nature of Kali Yuga. So we're talking about internal regulation here, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. That internal regulation of your senses, of your mind, of your intelligence comes when you are connected to Krishna. External regulation, on the other hand, comes through social structures that ensure wrongdoers are punished. One is self-control. You can have self-control only if you understand that there is a bigger goal in life. And the other one is society controlling you by punishing you if you step out of line. This external dharma establishes a societal order that discourages immoral actions, holding individuals accountable for their transgressions. So externally also there has to be rules and regulations in society that does not allow certain activities to take place. So that would be the responsibility of the government. Such inner and outer order is essential for protecting society. The most common and widespread anartha, the primary driver behind law breaking, is lust. When people encounter opportunities to gratify their senses, they often act on these impulses without hesitation. If a war breaks out, traditionally it is fought by men. Yet, women often become victims. Women may be abducted, violated, or enslaved. They are often considered captives of war and tragically treated as fair game. The human suffering that follows is immense, as war leads to the destruction of society's protectors, those who uphold dharma. When these protectors are lost, women become vulnerable to violation. Adharmat bhibavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriya. As a result, Arjuna warns there will be unwanted progeny. Strishu dushta suvarshneya jayate varna sankara. Dharma is essential to protect the weak from the baser tendencies of the strong. It is what sets humans apart from animals, where might is right. Might is right means whoever is stronger gets to win, not whoever is right. And the principle of survival of the fittest predominates. However, when dharma is upheld, both externally through legislation and internally through education, it prevents the law of the jungle from becoming the law of the land or the law of the kingdom. Humans possess both lower and higher instincts, while animals typically operate only through their basic instincts. For an animal, if there is food, it will instinctively pounce on it. If there is a potential mate, it will pursue it, driven by biological urges. Animals may not even consciously recognize actions such as mating as leading to reproduction. They are simply propelled by these inherent desires. These biological impulses compel them towards certain behaviors without conscious deliberation. A little while back, I was watching a short video. Who doesn't like to watch videos of peacocks fanning out their feathers? There was this short little clip by a BBC reporter who happened to be somewhere in California, right? Somewhere in the mountains, maybe, where it would not be surprising to see peacocks wandering around in towns. And so she found a set of peacocks and peahens wandering about. And she was filming their calls to each other, mating call. So she noticed that one of the peacocks would keep calling and keep calling and keep calling, but he was not very successful in attracting a mate. Another peacock, meanwhile, a little less aggressive or smaller compared to this peacock that was looking for a mate, also was calling. And then there is a short film that shows this one peacock surrounded by many peahens. And so, surprisingly, what happens is that the next day when she comes to see what is going on, whether this lonely Romeo got his mate or not, she was surprised to find that this peacock was imitating a victory cry. So when the peacock is successful in getting a mate, they have this particular tune or cry, whatever you want to call it. So this peacock that had been trying and trying and trying for many days to get a mate, no matter what he did, he could not attract him. So he imitated the cry of being victorious, even though he was not victorious. And lo and behold, some of the peahens came towards him just to see, oh, somebody else has got him, we should fight for it. So she was talking about how even in animal kingdom, where Prabhupada says, there is an instinct that for an animal's instinct is to chase if there is a partner. And sometimes there is a vicious fight between the males to decide who will get the female. So here, the peacock simply adapted itself, thinking, okay, I have to fake victory to attract attention of the peahens. And he was successful. So if this is happening in animal kingdom, certainly it is happening in a very sophisticated way in the human beings, right? So animals may not deliberate about all of these things, as Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is saying, yeah? But certainly humans do deliberate quite a bit before they take any action. We humans also experience biological drives, yet we possess something more, a higher side that enables us to perceive reality beyond our specific situations and the impulses they may generate. To the extent that we learn to rise above these situations, we can recognize a spiritual essence within us, or at the very least, a higher dimension of life that encompasses both inner identity and outer destiny. This higher dimension implies that we are more than our biology. It invites us to understand that death is not the end. We will exist beyond it. Our actions in the present shape this future existence, creating a continuity that reaches beyond the confines of our current life. To shape our future meaningfully, it is crucial to have a clear perspective on what we are doing and why. Dharma is thus essential to curb the animal instinct within us. So, why has Krishna created these, instituted these 4 legs of Dharma? Because Dharma is not meant for animals or birds or insects, it's meant for human beings. It is to regulate your life in such a way that you don't become an animal. When these instincts are left unchecked, the greatest victims are often the weak. Moreover, it is not only the weak in general who suffer, but especially those who appear to offer some advantage or pleasure to their victimizers, which is why I use the word exploited. So it is women succumb to exploitation. It's not that men don't succumb to exploitation in certain many instances, but women certainly may allow their emotions to get ahead of them. For instance, if a person is both vulnerable and visibly wealthy, they become an easy target. In a society where law and order have broken down, such individuals are often the first to be targeted by thugs. If someone appears weak but lacks visible wealth, they may not attract much attention from potential aggressors. Similarly, within society, lust often convinces us that pleasure can be found through sensual pursuits, leading us to focus on ways to gratify these desires. When dharma is absent, both internally as conscience and externally as the rule of law, based on the principle of fairness, there is nothing to regulate these impulses. So there is internal regulations that you practice, and then external regulations that is imposed on you by society. This absence leads to large-scale chaos with people's unchecked lust driving them to harmful actions, and women in particular becoming the victims of such unrestrained impulses. So you can see we have reviewed Prabhupada's purport, and he's stating categorically here that women can be easily exploited by men, and therefore Arjuna is worried. Why should we get rid of the elders? Because if the elders are not there to protect women, then what will be the condition of women in society? So that is Arjuna's primary concern here.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.